Quality.
Kuja hapa niendeshe nini?
Si hapa iko sawa, hapa niko sawa.
Kuja hapa.
Si huyu nenda hapo mbele kesho.
Kuja hapa nani?
Msifunike watu.
Ni makona Jubilee ni ring mataka megega. Hapo. Ndio ikalea.
Na mwenyewe.
Kuna serikali yote, kaunti zote. SG kuna serikali yote hapa.
Ndio. Mokorino no utwira. Wewe ndio utatuambia kama tuko sawa. Ukisema tuendelee tutaendelea tu. Tuko sawa? Asanteni sana na karibu. This morning we have had a meeting of Jubilee leaders from the branches, some of our many branches, but we have about 14 chairmen and secretaries from our counties. This is the first meeting of a section of the branches. We'll have another one kwa sababu ni wengi sana na tuko wengi, but we want to manage our branches in that format. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that we continue doing grassroots recruitment, making sure that our party infrastructure and structures are in place. We have also agreed that in the coming days we will be out now to open party offices. And of course, we have been able to talk about many things, including the fact that we are still members of the Azimio Coalition, and we have many other upcoming activities. Perhaps if it works as per our program, by the end of the week we should be in Kajiado, hopefully have a party activity and open offices there. We'll be heading to Meru, we'll be heading to Nyeri and many other places. But we'll also have meetings of other branch officials from other regions in the coming days. And that is in keeping with the requirements of the ORPP, because it is important that we maintain offices in the 24 counties. As you are aware, unlike all the other political parties, we dragged behind because of unnecessary court battles, which are now essentially behind us, and that is why we need to do a lot of catching up. Fortunately, and we want to thank those people who registered. They have remained loyal to the party. Last time I did give you the number. The number has continued to grow from the 7.1 million members registered with our party. And I asked you to check with the ORPP and tell us whether there is any other larger party than Jubilee. And we can also confirm to you that it doesn't take a day or two to register members. That is work that has gone into place for a period of more than 10 years. So to grow that kind of a membership register, you need a lot of resources and also a lot of time. But crucially, you need a lot of loyalty from the people whom you go seeking to register as your members. And it is also, of course, we have discussed the other issues that are there, that have been there. I've mentioned the issue of Azimio. We are members of Azimio Coalition. That is a document that we signed. It is the Azimio Coalition that gave birth to the NADCO report together with KK. And when we gave birth to it, it was, remember the number one item was the cost of living, and that had continued and continues to date to be a big problem to Kenyans. We have now many policies that have been put in place that are not working. If you talk about the health sector, it's more or less collapsed. If you talk about the education sector, we are told that the amount of money the government is sending today is 3,000 shillings per student, as opposed to the 12,000 shillings that they expected. Can you imagine 3,000 as opposed to 12,000? How the teachers, the head teachers and the principals are going to manage, that is going to be a very difficult thing. If you talk about the security sector, again, there isn't much you can talk about. When you talk about vetting for those who wants to be issued with ID, we are not against any community, but it is a security issue that is of concern to all of us. We want Kenyans to get the IDs as easy as it can be possible, but at the same time making sure that we do not allow elements that will eventually become a problem to us as a nation. We also don't want that aspect to be used to league elections, because it is possible for that to be done. You can let in people through the boundaries who can then become registered as voters, and that can tilt the voting desire or the outcome that Kenyans may desire come 2027 or earlier. And also remember, if you are talking about we have Busia is also a border area. We have Namanga, pia huko ni mpaka, the other side of Mount Elgon. All these are areas that communities that border others. And when you I've talked about security, but I think security also goes hand in hand with the foreign policy. We supported Baba in his quest for the AUC position. Unfortunately, he didn't succeed. But we also need to ask ourselves as a country, and especially from the head of the state, how did we contribute to his failure to capture that seat? Are there people who didn't like our faces? Are there people who didn't like what we have stood for, or what we may have said there before? Is it in keeping with us to host who, you know, for lack of a better word, people who are looking for ways of overthrowing the government in power in the neighboring country? Why would you want to host such a group in our country? However friendly they are to you, what does it tell that the leadership in those countries, or even the populace in that country? I think some of those are mishaps that one way or another may have contributed to the failure of Baba reaching the AUC seat. I don't Kenyans have decided hii mambo ya Ruto must go. Hata mtoto wa kindergarten ukimuuliza ile wimbo anapenda sana siku hii ni Ruto must go. Kwa hivyo hiyo sasa they are looking at us and wondering whether we are organizing ourselves in a manner that will help them achieve their desire. And these members here have joined others across the country and other leaders of other parties by also saying that they also want to have their own presidential candidate as a party, not to mean that he becomes the eventual presidential candidate, but a presidential candidate within the party who will then join others in coming up with one person who I believe as a coalition or as people in the opposition, we should be able to back. And I see you looking at me like you want me to mention the name. And I don't need to mention the name. You can mention the name. Ni jina gani wamesema?
Matiangi.
Wao wenyewe wameamua wanataka Matiangi as their presidential candidate. Wa Jubilee. Alafu watakutana na wale vigogo wengine ambao wako kule, mwishowe watakubaliana kati ya wao who can help us take the country forward. But it's not a decision to just be made within the boardroom. It's a decision that must involve Kenyans. Kenyans themselves must voice their choice. Whom do they want among all those people? Wenyewe, I know one way or another that will happen. Kwa hivyo, I think the only other thing that we important decision that was arrived at by the Constitutional Court, where Jubilee, not Jubilee, Azimio, which constitutes of ODM, Jubilee, declared the majority party. And I think it is important for ETA to understand it clearly that the court declared the decision that was arrived at by Kenyans on the 9th of August 2022. It's Kenyans who told us we are giving the executive to KK, but the legislative arm, we are giving it to Azimio. So ETA has no mandate to start playing with words and trying to declare whom he prefers to be the candidate, to be the majority or the minority. And we believe that in the coming days, now that Baba is back home, he should be able to Parliament, for the various Parliamentary Committee, Departmental and the other committees, session committees. And I believe that as that is happening, the strength of the parties on the floor will be respected. Within Azimio coalition, ODM has the largest, is larger than Jubilee, and Jubilee is larger than Wiper, and Wiper is larger than the APK in that order. So in the allocation of seats and opportunities within the floor, that should be respected. Because anything else will again mean that we are in total abuse of the coalition agreement that we entered into there before 2022. I don't think there is anything else that we would want to say juu ya hayo, lakini tunagojea kuona dunia inaenda namna gani. Pengine swali moja tu. Yes.
Sawa, asante mheshimiwa. Mimi naitwa Vincent Afande kwa niaba ya Radio Citizen. Umesema Jubilee itakuwa na presidential candidate of aspirants. But juzi tumeona wale viongozi wa muungano wa Azimio wakina Kalonzo pamoja na lakini Jubilee haijakuwa represented. Uko na mnatembea pamoja kuunda muungano ambao utakuwa mbele wa siasa ama Jubilee na watu jana walikuwa wamekutana au kuwepo ile siku nyingine wakiwa katika chama cha Jubilee au kuwepo, pengine utupatie picha kamili kama kwa habari iko pamoja ama naenda vipi?
Kama vile nimesema ni kwamba kwa miaka zaidi ya miwili sisi katika Jubilee tumekuwa na mambo ya kusubuana kotini, na kwa hivyo kinyume ama pengine tofauti na vyama vingine, sisi kuna mambo mengi ambayo tunatakana kuyafanya kama chama ili tuweze kufika kiwango kile ambacho wengine wamefika. Kama wale umewataja wamekuwa wakihakikisha kwamba vyama vyao vinaendelea vyema kwa zaidi ya miaka mitatu. Sisi tumekuwa tunasukubuana hapa na pale. Ni juzi tu tumeweza kufikia pale. Kwa hivyo hata sisi wenyewe tukifika kiwango ya kukaa na wao kuongea mambo ya dunia ya kesho, tutaonekana pale. Lakini pia ujue kila wakati, kila kitu ina wakati wake. For now, I believe the most important thing for us as Jubilee is to build our party. And you'll see us out in the countryside with the Kenyans uko zaidi kuliko vile unaweza fikiria. And we need to do it because every time we wanted to do it there before, it was not possible. Now we will be there. Na si namna hiyo. Nilikuwa nataka kusema gani nyingine? Wacha tuseme nyuma yako iko mwingine mfupi.
Raila is back. Should we take up the PM slow as debate is sort of directing towards to, or should he join the opposition?
Najua mambo mengine zaidi ni ya mwenyewe sababu tumefika pale ya watu kuamua vile unataka kufanya. You see, there is that freedom, but it's good to remain respectful of agreements that may have been signed and that are binding, and also to remain respectful of our constitution provision. Remember, if you are talking of the Prime Minister's position, in the manner that you are asking the question, that requires a constitutional amendment. And if it's a constitutional amendment, even within NADCO, where we provided for the position, it was clear to some of us that you cannot create that position without a referendum. You need to go and ask Kenyans whether they want that done. Of course, it changes to the provisions of our constitution. But we expect him to also, like I mentioned, call us in Azimio together and tell us what he thinks about, or allow us to discuss what we think about some of those issues, including the NADCO is this. NADCO has been in Parliament for more than a year now, if I'm not wrong. Not more than a year, a couple of months, heading to a year. If there was anything useful they thought was contained in that document, they would have implemented it by now. So this cherry picking is, they may want to use NADCO report to manage the country now that they are in disarray. So Wakenya, just be aware that hii mambo yote ni kupangwa tu, mambo ya kupanga, tutapanga kupangwa. Na nafikiri Wakenya sasa wamepita hiyo kiwango ya kupangwa. They have decided, come what may, 2027 it is Ruto must go. So ulete NADCO mapema, ulete baadaye, uniweke prime minister, unitoe. Hii mambo Wakenya wametoa kwa biashara yao. Ni mabadiliko ni lini. And that is why we want to go out as a party, to ensure that we are also ready, so that when that time comes, we are able to sit at that table and make decisions that will help the country move together. Yes, do.
Tayari mmetaja kwamba Matiangi ndiye atakuwa yule ambaye atabeba bendera yenu kama Jubilee. Na pia wengi wanahisi kwamba Raila Odinga hata kama atasimama kwa mfano atakuwa kiungo muhimu sana kwenye siasa za mwaka 2027. Labda kama Jubilee unasemaje kuhusiana na mtazamo huo wa wengi nchini?
Ati umesema nini? Naona umenitega pale, endelea rudia tena.
Wengi wanasema kwamba tukielekea uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka 2027, Raila Odinga hata kama atasimama atakuwa na sauti, kama atakuwa kiungo mkubwa sana kwenye siasa za mwaka 2027. Tayari ninyi kama Jubilee mmesema kama Matiangi tosha.
Wamesema ya kwamba Matiangi is our presidential candidate, Jubilee. And it's also important to know ya kwamba pale tumefika, it's also not easy to mobilize, ama sio rahisi kuhakikisha ya kwamba chama kinaendelea kuwa kama hakina presidential candidate. Tena chama kama Jubilee with 7.1 million registered members, inaweza kuwaje kwamba kati yetu hatuwezi pata mtu ambaye anaweza simama kiti cha urais ama akae na wale wengine kwa meza ijulikane. Kusema ya kwamba baba atakuwa na ushawishi mkubwa kwa siasa, baba ni baba. Ni kweli atakuwako nao, lakini wengine pia watakuwako na ushawishi. Lakini wale ambao wako na ushawishi mkubwa zaidi ni Wakenya. Na Wakenya ndio watasema tunamtaka huyu wala sio yule. And I tell you something else ambao nimesikia kwa Wakenya. Wanataka kama sisi ni watu ambao wako opposition, tukae pamoja tuwapatie presidential candidate mmoja. Hawataki kila mtu amesimama kwake nyumbani. Wanataka kila mmoja. Kwa hivyo utaona harakati nyingi, kwa sababu kama umesema ni huyu na huyu na huyu, si kila mtu lazima afanye bidii yake. Sasa sisi wenyewe kama Jubilee tunafanya bidii pia, ndio hiyo angalau our presidential candidate aonekane kama anafaa kuliko wale wengine. Na Kalonzo amekuwa akifanya vile vile. In fact, Kalonzo has the biggest advantage. He's done it the longest. Wamarwa amekuwa akiifanya. Madha amekuwa akiifanya. Omtata kwanza alileta mpaka international consultants akafanya yake. Simolala pia alikuwa amefanya kitu kama ile. Nani mwingine? Wajakoya is always all over. You know Wajakoya na bado atakuwa kwa ballot. I don't want to leave anybody out. Nimesema Okiki wa Mutahi. Jimmy Wajigi has also been there. So all these people, and that's a nani mwichoe watakuwa na ushawishi kwake waseme ni huyu. Mimi nikiniuza mimi naombea sasa, ukiniuza nikisimama ninaombea uone Matiangi kwa sababu ndio wa Jubilee. Ule mwingine akisimama pale ya watoto, insurance ya watoto. We will reverse all those things. Zote. And it will be a 360 Trump anaandika mambo inabadilika that time. That's what we are looking for. Because we are wasting time, we have wasted time, but I believe that with a good leader, this country can be turned around in months and we go back on a useful trajectory. Asanteni sana. Na nyasani ya muride. Yes, sorry? A quick one.
Given we have a new foreign policy, but we are still committing some diplomatic moves, be it in Sudan or DRC, how would you speak to it?
I hear you saying we have a new foreign policy. I don't know which. Because if you are talking of a foreign policy that guides you to host M13 in the country, and they form an opposition to the government in DRC. If you are talking of having these guys of RSF in the country, and they are forming themselves to go and do some other funny things in their own country, then our foreign policy is completely warped. And it is an embarrassment knowing the kind of brains we have that have guided us in the past in terms of foreign policy that gave us a lot of respect internationally. We were respected and feared as a country that knew what we wanted to do, where we wanted to go, and how. As it is today, if you ask any person sitting for an exam to write about the Kenyan foreign policy, ataaguka ama apite. Sababu hiyo ni mategemeo tu ya mwenye kumaka karatasi. There is none. Hata Musalia mwenyewe kimuuliza foreign policy yake ni gani, he doesn't know it. Nimemsikia akiongea leo hii, kesho anatoa, kesho kutwa anaweka. How many times must be anyway? Wachana na hiyo maneno. Acha wale tugojee 2027. Wacha sisi tukajipange na maofisi. Thank you so much.